podcast for those who suffer, which is everyone.
It's a space where we can speak honestly about what it feels like to be in desolate places without losing hope.
Welcome to In the Thicket. Welcome back, everyone. This week's episode is kind of like an introduction to the episodes in the weeks that will follow. We're talking about the experience of thinking that our lives are built on some firm foundations, but then discovering that maybe the foundations are not quite as firm as we thought. That might be in the way that we see God or see others or see the church, lots of different things. And each of us shares about our own experience of having some of those foundations shaken and of finding the Lord as the root of all foundations. We hope it's helpful for you and that it will really kind of preface the conversations that we're going to be having in the weeks to come. God bless you. Welcome back, Thicketeers.
Whoa. Oh, no, that's right.
That's right.
I differently thought you said nicotine, and then it only in my brain after realized it was Thicketeers.
Welcome back, nicotine.
Oh boy.
It's gonna be a spicy episode already. All right.
Good. It's good.
Welcome back, dear listeners. My name is Erin, and I'm joined by co-hosts
Rachel D'Souza
and Nicole.
Yay!
Sorry, wow. And Nicole, not Anne Nicole, just Nicole.
Isn't it weird that I said my last name? Y'all didn't, you know?
Yeah. Well, right now mine says Aaron the Great because Nicole renamed me.
Oh, that's true. It does say that.
Well, it says here
Aaron Kinsella. I mean, I'm okay with it. Aaron the Great is fine. I mean, I share that with John Paul too. That's pretty high praise, you know? So
that's right.
Oh, now the greatest.
Now you've superlatived you. There we go.
Oh my goodness. That's so great. That's awesome. How are you guys doing this week? Good? Feeling good?
Yeah. Yes.
Because it is back to school time. So this is actually the question.
So similar.
Yeah. So okay,
doing good. Good.
So we had it's like I know back to school time, whatever. Whether you're a parent who has kids or you're in university or you're a teacher or even if you're going back to work, because there's like even if you're not a teacher, you have nothing to do with school. There's still like the reality that the fall comes around and things like get back to this normal
different
and
kind
then
of
the traffic is worse. And then
yeah.
like it's it's kind of grind, but
it's a vibe.
It's a vibe. Yeah, it's a vibe. Yeah. So how is your back to school, Nicole? Because you guys go back early, eh?
Yeah, we went back. Our first day of school is August 23rd. So it was good. So the first couple of weeks, or sort of middle of August, it's all meetings. They call them like faculty retreats. And so they're not retreats, not in like the church sense. So don't stop thinking that we go on retreats. It's just retreat just means all day meetings.
Gotcha.
And so it's a lot of meetings, a lot of different things. And I find those weeks, like with all the meetings and stuff, I find those very tiring because I'm not in routine. I don't, every day is different. And so for me, once I actually get back into classes where now I have this certain flow of every day and it's sort of predictable and I'm used to it. And also for me this semester, this is my third year now teaching at Belmont. And it's the first time that all my classes that I'm teaching this fall I've taught before. And so there's a definite, like a level of kind of calm, and I'm not just like panicking to get everything together all the time.
Which is awesome
stuff. Oh my gosh, it's so great. So it's good, but it is tiring. Like my days are still very full and it's a mixture of teaching and I do some clinical supervision, clinical work on the side. And so, or sort of as part of my whole package or whatever. So I get to the end of the day and I'm tired and I watch a lot of New Girl and I quilt stuff. So it's been good.
New Girl. So great.
But it's good. We have, I just honestly, I'm sure that none of my students are listening, so I'll just tell you good things about them, anyway, but no, there's just like a lot of wonderful, really strong students and, students that I've maybe watched grow through the last couple of years and now kind of are really blossoming or just different things like that. And it's just so lovely to see.
Cool.
It's so energizing.
That is really cool.
Yeah, so it's good. It's good. I'm
Nice.
tired, but it is really good.
Tired but good. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Rach? So yeah, because you were going from the teacher to the student.
Right.
So
Yeah. I'm just tired, I think. I don't think I'm bad, but I'm like neutral and
oh,
tired.
wait, before you say it, I was going to say we're going from the teacher to the student, except for Nicole is a hybrid still because she's a teacher and a
true.
student right now.
It's true. Yeah. So in my back to school,
That's
so
true.
I was writing dissertation stuff over the summer. And right now I'm waiting for feedback from my committee. And it's been trickling in over the summer, but I have a feeling now that the schools, especially the
Yeah.
semester in Canada has started and people will be back to work, then I'll get
And then
feedback.
you're going to get it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm
gonna
like
be
in
like a
teacher
flood.
mode. It'll be, the flood, and then I can start
Yep, that's right.
dissertating more. Yay.
This is good. Well,
good.
hybrids are all the rage
Dissertating.
right now. So so you're really in it. All
That's
right.
right.
Sorry. Now back to you, Rach. Back to you. So teacher, student to student.
Thank you, Erin. So the weather on this side is, first of all, actually, genuinely, the weather in DC at this time of year is disgusting. As anyone who lives here knows, it's really gross. It's like you stand outside for 2 seconds and you're just like sticky. It's just that.
It's just warm and hot.
It's warm and humid.
See,
it's like, yeah.
I like that kind of
You
weather,
like the
I have to
sticky?
admit.
Like I like the hot, but I don't mind the hot, but like the sticky.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just always cold. And so anything warm, like I don't care if it's sticky or not. I'm just happy.
That's fair. I don't mind the heat, but I can't do the humidity. Like it's more humid than Ontario, which is that's saying a lot.
That's a lot.
So
yeah.
I mean, I feel like Ottawa's quite humid also, but
Ottawa, Montreal, yeah.
Anyway, so the weather actually is kind of, but I'm tired. I'm very proud of myself because I have woken up before 6 a.m. at least twice this past week, which is like shocking for anyone who knows
That's
me.
awesome.
Like that's just absolutely like the world must be ending sometime soon because that is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like the weird person that I'm like totally a morning person once I'm up, but like waking me up is like waking the dead. It's like I never like I don't wake up. I mean,
awesome.
to an alarm. I wake up to human beings really well, but to alarms, like no way. So anyways, that's been really good. So I'm kind of getting into some good routines. I have a lot on my plate this semester, like just an unusual kind of amount. I'm auditing some things and I have some like different things like language tests and another huge test to prep for. And so it's like I just have extra on my plate for a whole bunch of reasons. And so I'm kind of looking at the semester sort of with a little bit of like, oh, like am I gonna be able to do this? I don't know.
It's like the top of the roller coaster.
Yeah.
But like at the top of the roller coaster, you're going down. So I guess,
so you're like at the bottom of the roller coaster looking.
Well, it's like both. It's like I could be going down. Like really, this could take me down totally. Or
like, is this roller coaster, has it been maintained well?
Yes, exactly. Am I going to die? Or am I like the opposite is like I'm at the bottom
of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. The other version I was thinking was like I'm at the bottom of the roller coaster and I'm looking up and I'm like, is the mechanism gonna work? Like, are we gonna get to the top? Is that gonna happen? So that's where I'm at. But I also love the beginning of the semester because it's always like anything's possible, at the beginning of the semester.
Yeah.
You don't know for sure that you can't or can do something yet.
Yes.
And I kind of love that. That's the optimist in me is like, that's awesome. We can work with that, So talk to me in a month and
nice.
I might be crying on this podcast, which is not inappropriate.
Yeah.
So
That's right. Yeah. I have no back to school stuff. The only back to school stuff that's in my life is my 2 nephews who I'm not sure who made this decision, but all the kids at the elementary school went back to school. So my nephew's in grade 2 on Tuesday. And then all the kindergarten kids start on Thursday. I was like, do you know what you've done to every parent at home who has a kindergartner who doesn't get to go to school for the 2 days that their sibling gets to go to school? My nephew was like losing his mind.
Inconsolable.
Inconsolable. Anyway, so I went out because he just really likes taking the bus for some reason, like the city bus. So and he's like, that was his consolation prize, was like, okay, you don't get to go to school today, but Auntie's going to come and you're going to take the bus. So we took the bus to like Blair Station, ate a piece of pizza and took the bus back. And he's like, Auntie, this is such a good adventure.
Oh, that is so cute.
I know.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that's the only stuff. But I will say that this time of year, it's definitely weird instead of in like hotness and then it's starting to get cool at night. But as you're listening to this, maybe if you're listening to this when it actually in the week when it actually comes out, I am on silent retreat right now. So if you're listening to this, say a prayer for me because God is outside of time. So all those things would be,
There
so
you go.
yeah. So just at the end of September, when everybody's kind of getting into the swing of things, I will be out of the swing of all things. I can't
Wow.
wait.
That sounds amazing.
It's gonna be
There's a
like
little part of my heart that's
zone.
like, yeah,
Like
this is
I want
like,
to come.
man. So okay. I think so I'm married and I'm working, and then I hear that you're going on a silent retreat, and there's this little piece of my heart that's just like, oh, that sounds great.
Right?
Like, but just like, you pray for us, Erin.
I will pray for you. I mean, you guys can come with me at some point, if you want to.
Sure.
But,
That sounds good.
Yeah.
That would be good.
We'll do an in the thicket silent retreat. So we will just
And then
all
we'll record
communally
it.
suffer together for 8 days without talking.
Yeah, and we'll record the whole thing.
Yeah,
and it'll be like
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
then
right.
you can listen at your own and pray at your own
That's
pace.
That's right. That's right.
For
You
that
just hear
silence.
people sneezing and just it's good. It'll be good. Anyways, okay, so let's on to the topic of the day, shall we? So
Yes.
here's an introduction to a bunch of episodes that are coming at you this fall. So we're going to be talking about a bunch of things that are kind of experiences of destabilization. So we wanted to have like an introductory episode to that to speak about some of our own times where things that the way that we've seen things, or how how firm our foundations have been, what we've built things on, where they've been kind of shaken in some way or chipped away, or we've learned something that's really been destabilizing, or whatever the case may be. Just as a way of kind of uncovering, that we are very limited human beings and we do not know all the mysteries of God and his created order. And so then when we discover things that are not actually true, it's okay to feel like you're on shaky ground because the Lord is underneath the shaky ground as the foundation of everything. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So so I figured maybe we could start with you, Rach, if you want to share a little bit, because even when we were talking about it, we all have like very different experiences of when we've like experienced that, which is interesting too. So you go, Rach.
So I have a couple of kind of experiences. One is, I think a lot of people can relate to. I didn't realize that I really believed that God loved me because I was good. I was like, I only realized that in my early 20s, and I was like, oh. And it was a very difficult summer where I was like, oh, I think that God loves me because I'm good. And then, oh, I'm not actually good like a lot of the time. And then, oh, like, I don't really know that God loves me. And so it was like, that was just a really interesting, kind of like a devastating experience actually, where it was like learning to be okay in some ways with not being good. Like I am, we're all good because God made us. But in the sense of like, I am a sinner and I really do reject God a lot in my life. And just facing that in myself. And then also at the same time, facing that God still loves me through that, even though I'm like icky and gross and stuff like that in those moments. It was a really, really difficult, and it took me a long time, I think, to really come to that. So that was one experience. But another one for me is I went through something pretty traumatic when I was a child that, I was very young, and it was to do with a stranger. So it was like circumstances way out of my control, out of my family's control. And I remember I didn't realize it at the time because I have a really great family that I was like, taking good care of and whatever. But I remember realizing in the last like 5 years, like, oh, I've built an entire framework, like an entire lens on how I view life based on this experience. And it wasn't a lie. Like one of the factors like that we were saying that's destabilizing is believing in lies, So we believe in lies for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes we believe in lies because they're based in something true, like something actually did happen that's real. And that was true. And you're not kind of like blowing it up in your mind, or whatever. It just really actually was bad. And but then you build up a framework that is a lie. Like, cause that's not the whole truth. That was one true hard thing, bad thing that happened. But because of how old you are or whatever, the way your psyche works, like you have all of reality is now kind of, infused with this experience, which isn't, and that's not true, because all of reality isn't that way. So just kind of sorting through that and being like, okay, how can God in some ways convince me that what was true, what really did happen, isn't always going to happen, like isn't, all of the sort of catastrophizing, absolutizing statements that you kind of make naturally when something bad happens. And so just kind of going through that process has been just discovering what it really means to trust God. What it really means to be stable. Like what is stability really?
And if I can add something to that, Rachel, because I think what you're describing really well is, we talk about this a lot in like the therapy world, right? Which is that whatever environment we grow up in, our different childhood experiences that are like intense or traumatic or whatever, they give us these ways of viewing the world that are designed to protect us.
Right.
So we learn very quickly to think and act in a certain way to protect ourselves from the thing that we experienced. And that way of thinking or acting, it's
helpful.
It's helpful, and it's helpful for those contexts.
Yeah.
But then, as you're saying, you get older and you realize that, okay, this is not helpful for all contexts that I'm in. But it was like the foundation of safety for a while. And so how do I learn to kind of
let that
if I let that go, that would feel very unsafe.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. It's true. Yeah. I find that I feel like that's exactly describing, because I was telling you guys last time we kind of met just for a catch up about, for me in therapy, that's like exactly what's happening right now. Is there's like this one memory that I have from when I was in like grade 5 or something. I think it was like grade 5 or 6. And just what happened in that whole time was like there were all these all these converging things that came together that were happening in my life at the time that were very destabilizing. And so it was like this kind of thing that seeped into my brain, like this lie that I believe that I am alone, or that I have to take care of myself. So this is like the fundamental thing, but then it's like where we really deeply believe those things, or that like I am not a delight, like I'm annoying, or I'm like whatever it is, like who knows. There's like I think there's probably like 10 different things that I believe about myself that came from some of those experiences just that year, and but it's like we don't even realize so much of the time that we're looking at life through those lenses. And in a sense, that's like the really painful part, or the really difficult part, I think, comes like it's painful and difficult to live when you're looking at life through those lenses, but it's almost like you don't really realize it in some senses, right? Or like it comes up and it goes, and it comes up and it goes, and it's not like, but once you once you kind of realize that you've been looking at things in that light, or that this has affected, or that this is something that you believed, it feels like it is very destabilizing, because then it's like taking this part of your identity, or this part of your something, and like saying, actually, this is not true. And then it's like, well, what is true? Like, what is true if this is not true? And you get so used to believing these things that are not true, that when there's something that's suggesting that maybe it's not true, or maybe there's something different, or maybe, this happened or whatever, it's like,
that itself is destabilizing.
It feels
like,
so destabilized. It feels so vulnerable. That's it. Like, it feels so vulnerable, because it's like, well, but what happens if all of these things that I was protecting myself from actually come, and I've let go of this protective thing? I'm going to be destroyed. Like, and you said that before. I remember you saying that before about things, Rachel, like this is going to destroy me.
It feels like you're like you're going to die, but it's not like a physical threat. It just feels like whatever thing's going to happen is going to kill you.
Yeah.
But I think that's exactly like, I think that is really the heart of the lie. Is like, whatever it is, it has the power to destroy me, when as sort of a fully formed disciple, not fully formed as in like I'm perfect, but like, as someone who's fully in communion with the church and receiving the graces that the Lord has for me as a broken person, but with that access every single day of my life.
Mhm.
Like in some sense, there's an act of trust where you're like, no, like I will not be destroyed because God is with me. Like that
Mhm.
is real. That is the truest thing that I know.
Mhm.
And I have to sort of believe that um first in a way. Like I have to believe that
Mm-hmm.
that has to be my step one. It's not sort of like after and seeing that
Mhm.
I haven't been destroyed. I mean, although that's also
Right.
part of it, right? Like that is
Yeah.
part of it. Like those experiences where you find that God, oh yeah, he did save me or he did. But there are experiences where
Mhm.
like you're in the thicket of it, right? You're
Yeah,
really
yeah.
in the middle of feeling like you're being destroyed, where you sort of have to make that
Mm-hmm.
act of trust, like, wait a second, no, the Lord is with me. My maker, the one who holds everything in existence, is truly with me.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I cannot be destroyed, you know, and that's like very scriptural. Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing
Yeah.
separate me from God.
Mhm.
Nothing. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what destruction is. Like that's what
Mhm.
not
Mm-hmm.
Right.
being
Yeah.
is to
Yep.
not be with
Yep.
God, you know? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think like, it's interesting because we're talking about here a little bit of also intersection of kind of psychological and spiritual
Mhm.
realms, right?
Yeah.
And I think all three of us are very much, we've talked about this all the time on the podcast, but like are fans of therapy and very
Mhm.
much like we've all taken advantage of that or are currently taking advantage of therapy and
Mhm.
stuff. And that just like very much believe in that. And I think like what we're talking about here too is like that the spiritual side of things is so complementary to that, as we're
Mhm.
working through that like our stuff from the past or these ways of viewing the world or ways of viewing ourselves that
Mhm.
have been like twisted by experiences that were not our fault.
Mhm.
um it can be, yeah, important to work through that, with the professional who understands kind of how the brain works and all that. But yeah, also like to thinking about, okay, how does my faith play into this? How does my trust in God play into that? And then those both of those kind of
Mhm.
lungs can be helpful in our healing, I
Yeah.
think, in a big
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
and even I think it's Gaudium et Spes 8, maybe this is the one, anyways, where it says that God fully reveals man to himself. So even if we're talking about that identity and like what the truths are, it's
mm-hmm.
not like the Lord expects us to let go of all of these things and just be pushed out into this realm of oblivion until we find ourselves on
Mm-hmm.
him, but it really is
that's
like,
right.
even if
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it, he still is. Like he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't bring things up if he's not going to deal with them. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't. And so
Yeah.
he doesn't, it's because we're discovering our identity deeper in him, even if it doesn't really feel like it. And even if it's hard to believe it, it's because that's happening and he's actively doing that we're actually realizing these things and coming to some measure of like deeper understanding in him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thank you for like quoting that because I think that because it's not a part. It's like it's the foundation. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
knowing that God knows who I am. I
Mm-hmm.
don't, but he does. In a way
Mm-hmm.
nobody else really does. Like he's the only one who really has that. Like
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
through maybe therapy or my family or like all of these different things that he puts in my life, he will reveal me to myself and in
Mm-hmm.
prayer with
Mm-hmm.
him and all of those things. But it's him. He is the one who has that to begin with, who has
Right.
me to begin with.
Who
And
can
I,
bring us that the deepest truth and bring us that healing and all of those
Yeah.
yeah,
things.
like he's the only
Yeah.
one. I mean,
He's got the blueprint. He's
Mm-hmm.
got the yeah.
Yeah, he's got
exactly.
it.
Like
So
I,
this is
Yeah.
so good. It's just I'm like marveling at all the different, like I feel like we could have 18 episodes just talking about this one thing of identity,
Oh
which we
yeah.
will, which we will. We'll
Oh,
have other ones.
surprise. No.
Um, yeah, but we even wanted to talk, like we wanted to share that it comes like in multiple different ways, this kind of shaking,
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could share, Nicole, about
Yeah.
your experience of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm also going to share two that are different, but I think my first experience of sort of this feeling like the rug was pulled out from under me was, and I may have shared this on the podcast before, I don't remember, but I'll share it again. For the first more serious relationship that I had, dating relationship, um, and then it, didn't work out. But I remember that I guess that, growing up in sort of different ideas from purity culture had influenced me. So I always somehow had this idea that I wouldn't date a lot and like I'd probably like marry the first person
Mm.
I dated, or that everything would just like work out really smoothly and perfectly. And when that didn't happen, I doubted everything, you guys. Like I doubted to the point of being like, Kate, I remember thinking like, I felt so clearly that God led me into this relationship, and now we've broken up and I'm very at peace with that. But
How
that
is that
doesn't make sense to
reconcilable?
me. How
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
reconcile? And like, is anything I've ever believed true? Is my faith
Yeah.
even real? And I
Yeah.
remember sitting in my room and being like, I don't know. Like, I actually don't
Yeah.
know if anything related to God is real. I have no idea, because this just shattered whatever this very narrow template I had of expectation. But there it was. That's what I had.
Yeah.
And it would ended up for me being a choice to be like, well, I've invested a lot of time in this faith, so I remember just thinking like, I'm just gonna try it out a bit longer,
Yeah.
Wow.
and see what happens, and I'll just, and then I'm still practicing my faith, but it really was a thing where I'm like, I don't know if I want to, if this is what this God gives me, like, I don't know if I
Yeah.
want this, like. So I think that was the first destabilizing thing, but more recently, it's been interesting because I've been talking to so I have a spiritual director here in Nashville that I worked with now for, I guess, over 2 years, which is amazing. She's really lovely. And so one of the things that I think when I was like 13 or something, and even in my family growing up, like 13, I went to this like Catholic youth conference summer camp thingy, and I remember hearing a talk on like the importance of daily prayer and like making a commitment to like structured prayer every day, and like me being somebody who loves routine and structure, like taking that to heart and being like very intentional about like, I need to pray every day, and which is like great, that's nothing wrong with that, right? My family always did a prayer time, so it felt very, very natural. But what I think I didn't realize over time that somehow got instilled in me, or just my personality, whatever, was this feeling that like it is my responsibility to make sure that I pray and pray well and in the right way, in order to kind of access or unlock the graces that God has for me for that day. Right. And if I do not make that specific structured time to pray, God cannot bless me. And so as if it is my action in prayer, that of my action of initiating prayer, that is going to unlock God's action. And there's something in that sounds a bit true, but actually it's totally false, because my assumption is that starts with me, that I am the one who initiates prayer, and that's not how it works. So anyways, it's like there's been this like pressure and weight and almost a superstition attached to prayer for like 20 years of my life. And so working through this with my spiritual director this summer, because I was traveling so much, as I shared in our last episode, that it was really hard to sort of have my structured prayer time. And I was kind of, failing at that and feeling really worried. And oh my gosh, but I was like telling her this and saying, but like I was going to pray, but then like my niece was 2 and she wanted to play, or I was just tired. I was working on my dissertation or whatever, whatever these reasons are that I'm like, or I went for a walk. And then, so she told me for the summer, she was like, okay, she was like, just don't schedule a prayer time. Like, don't in a sense, not don't pray, but in my mind, prayer is the thing that I plan to do and I'm going to make it happen. And she says, don't do that. So the message that raced in my brain is like, don't pray. But she said, but be ready to be receptive to the opportunities that come for you to encounter the Lord, and realize that you can encounter the Lord in every circumstance, in every moment of every day, right? And so she's like, maybe that is going to be sitting down and doing the rosary if you feel led to do that. Maybe sometimes it's going to be playing with your niece. Maybe it's going to be walking or sitting outside. And so I just kind of did that. Like I just sort of threw everything I've learned about prayer out the window, and I felt it was like a new experience of freedom that I've never felt before in prayer. And like, to my surprise, I felt there was a lot of like consolation in this, and a lot of feeling of being close to the Lord. And I was definitely still like turning my heart to the Lord every day, but it didn't feel like it was like me being like, oh, I have to pray now. Like it just sort of like, it was like I was drawn upwards rather than it being something that I thought I was doing,
rather than strapping on your jetpack and checking
the fuel.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like the Lord was like, here, hop on my hand, and whoop, right. Or like Saint Teresa of Lisieux, she talks about like the elevator to heaven. She's like, why would I take the stairs when like Jesus can just be my elevator and bring me up? Like, so yeah, but I have to say too, like, that although that's been freeing, it's been destabilizing, because for so many years I believe that it is my like intention and like volition in prayer that comes from me that is the thing that makes God able to work in my life. And so I had this huge fear that like God's not going to be able to work in my life because I'm not doing this thing in the way that I always did it, you know? And so anyway, so it's like a work in progress, you know?
Yeah.
But I haven't stopped praying. It's just different now, or it has been different now, the way that I pray or the way that my heart is in it, or I don't think I'm great at praying. Like I'm doing the 54-day rosary novena and I suck at praying the rosary, you guys. I'm doing it, but I get very distracted and all this stuff. But like also I've been praying the rosary every day somehow and having like and that's a grace, you know,
right.
like
without the sort of without the strapping on of the jet fuel and all the things.
Right.
Like,
it's just like it's happening, and I make sure that I've made that decision, but it's just more I think it's just more recognizing like, all of this is God, all of this is grace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I was only under the illusion that I had any like control over this thing, you know,
like you can manipulate God by like,
yeah,
I would
for
like
real.
X, Y, and Z, so I will pray for 20 minutes today. And then
I used to have it if I prayed. I had a thing where I'm like, okay, I need a 40-minute prayer time, and if I prayed for 39 minutes, I would be anxious all the day about what the bad thing is going to happen. Like it was that level of being superstitious about it, you know.
And it's so like, it's amazing how the Lord asks, or how even through spiritual directors or whatever, like that there's times and seasons for things. Like sometimes I really don't like that word seasons. I just think it's like cheesy. And like in this season of my life, I'm like, oh, for Christ, it's fall. It's fall for everybody. Like just relax.
Yeah.
But it is true, like, because sometimes the Lord actually asks you to let go of something that is in theory good, or in practice good, you know, to receive like a greater grace, or to like hone that, or to purify that, and to give it back to you in a way that's actually way more like healthy and life-giving and free and
and the real thing.
And the real thing,
not the thing that I've like taken and then renovated in a weird crappy way, you know.
Right.
So.
When you're talking, Nicole, I remember this experience that I had when I was like, because so I moved to Canada with my family when I was 11, so that's kind of like the worst time to make a massive move like that, like culture, country, like massive move. And I mean, I'm pretty adaptable, so I wasn't like, I was sort of just like taking it, day by day and like going with the flow. But I remember we lived in Peterborough for about a year and a half, and I remember I was in the basement. I had my own room, which was like kind of cool because I didn't have that before. But I would wake up and I would be like so afraid, just like really, really afraid of like everything, like the whole, like just getting up and getting out of my door, like putting on, dressing for the day, like everything was just like, and I knew, I mean, I think sort of this is how my brain works. I sort of like knew that was irrational. Like I kind of knew, I was like, that doesn't make any sense, but I couldn't not be afraid. Like I was just afraid. And I remember in like prayer, like I just be like, Lord, like, I don't know. I think I would pray, like, please don't let like anything bad happen to me. But I sort of knew like something could still, like, I don't know, God is the one who knows what's going to happen to me today. And he might let something bad happen to me today. And then the only prayer that I had left and it's like this prayer I really believe God gave me was just like, just please be with me. Just please be with me. No matter what, just like, please be with me, you know? And I think that is kind of what you're going through right now, which is like really, it's not about the specific things, because we don't know what the day holds for us. Like we really don't. But we do know that is a prayer that God will never, ever deny us, and we can pray at any time, and it's always in a way true, like he always is with me. It's just like I need to know that. I just need to know that. So
absolutely. It is. It's that thing where I'm like, oh, I thought that I like downloaded God into my brain when I prayed, but actually he's always here and he's kind of everywhere. You know,
doesn't work like
so
that.
Great.
I had this like floppy disk image, like your brain is like an old computer.
You have to like reboot it every morning or something.
So now it's USB. You could put in your ear.
I was gonna say like maybe half the people listening don't know what
it's just like global Wi-Fi, you know.
Oh, that's right. That's good. So I can share, mine is like even different still. So like we have like experiences, and then we've got like the life of prayer and things like that. And then the example that I was thinking of was to do with like people in the church, you know, or expectations that I had, especially when I was like just a few years, I think, into after my conversion, something like that anyway. So I was like super pumped about everything Catholic, all the Catholic speakers, all the Catholic musicians, whatever. And there's this one concert in Ottawa, and it was like a Catholic musician that I was like, I just loved, and I got to work backstage because it was a conference. And then I was like super pumped to be like, hey, thanks so much. It's so great. Like, I just love your music, you know, and you're meeting like Catholic celebrities and whatever. And then they came off the stage and I was like, hey, thank you so much. And they just like totally walked by everybody, did not stop and talk to anybody backstage, was like, looked like they wanted to murder every single person. Like, it was like, and I was like, my world was like, like, honestly, I think it was probably the first time where I realized that actually other people in the church, especially in positions where they have some kind of influence or whatever, are not perfect. And I don't know why I had not considered that before. That it was kind of like, well, the Lord has given them, elevated them to this station because of their holiness. And that's how it works, right? Like the holy you are. Like Steubenville speakers, for example, that was like one of the things. I'm like, they're just so amazing, you know, and then you meet some of them, or they don't come out and like talk to anybody, which is weird because they're in ministry. But so I was like, there were kind of all of these things, and that was kind of destabilizing for me as well, because then I was like, because it sounds like very surfacey, but I was like, well, who can I trust then?
Right.
Like, who do I trust?
Well, and I think that's especially because all the people that you're mentioning are like people who on a stage or on, you know, in a public forum, they're giving a certain side of themselves that is probably very more open or extroverted or very kind of friendly and all these things. But that may be their professional side, and their personal side may not match that. But that seems duplicitous.
Right.
Did I say that word right?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Thank you.
And maybe like without pointing fingers or saying that's true of any, it could be sometimes duplicitous. Like,
Sure.
not in a diabolical way, but it could be that they're just like,
sure, there's room to grow or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And like for the musical artists, like I found out later that they're just super introverted, like very, very like painfully introverted. So I'm like, okay, you know, I could understand if you've just done this major thing and you've been like surrounded by people all day, that you're just like, you can't, like,
you're actually burnt out and kind of.
That's right. Even though introverts bewilder me and I think you're all insane. I can't, like,
gee, thanks, Erin. No.
I could have enough compassion that I could see how that might be possible, you know. Anyways, yeah. Yeah.
But no, I see that though. Like that's it's confusing behavior, right? And that can be kind of, especially if you're you were relatively,
I was like a few years,
right,
into my conversion. Yeah.
So it's like,
that like continued at times, I think, even when you're talking about people who have an actual teaching authority in the church, like bishops or theologians or things like that. And especially from those that I've had like great respect for, or people who have just taught such beautiful things, or who, when I've seen them or when I've encountered them or when I've heard them or when I've read them, it has done something in my heart that has opened up a space for the Lord in a big way. Like there are some works or people or whatever who just listening to a particular talk has been just this source of grace that I will remember for the rest of my life, where the Lord has done something, and then discovering that person has been living like a double life of evil, or even just that they've said something that's like totally off the rails, or that then they've gone and they were like practicing their faith and beautiful things and whatever, and then are just not even Catholic anymore and have just totally left the faith. Like, so I found that at times, like, it feels very destabilizing in some senses, because of you look up to people and they're an example of holiness and things like that. And it's like, well, was it true? Was I tricked?
Right.
But then also I feel like that sometimes, because I'm like, well, could that happen to me? Like, I mean, like, I think I'm at a pretty firm place. I mean, technically I'm married to Jesus, but I like,
Yeah.
Like, could it,
Well,
no?
Nathan and I have that conversation sometimes because we've looked at like especially certain, figures come out or different scandals and stuff, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like another one,
Yeah.
and it's so disheartening. And you're just like, it's the same thing of like, who can I trust? But then, yeah, that's the thing of like, can I even trust myself? Like, do I like, how do I know? Or, you can even, we all have sort of stuff in our past, or we can look and you're like, I could have easily become XYZ, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's a
Yeah.
scary thought sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So it's just that there, but for the grace of God, go I, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do think that's really important actually. Like in some ways it's like it does teach you about yourself to see this in others because it is true about us that we're, but for the grace of God, there
Yeah.
go I. And in a certain sense, the more we're aware of that, the
Yeah.
less we have to worry about it. Like in the sense that like
Mhm.
it's again, it's kind of going back to your thing, Nicole. It's like it's not like a striving that's going to prevent me from that fall. It's just a total dependence that's going to,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's, and in total dependence, I actually don't have to be afraid of falling. Like like
Right.
it's really a difference between Peter and Judas. Like that's the difference. Like, Peter just was like bold faced falling all of the time. And he just was like, he did deny Jesus, but he was like, I will come back and I will trust in your mercy. And like he walks on water and then he falls and Jesus, like he just constantly takes a leap and then can't follow through. Like,
Yeah.
he,
Well, and
he catches them.
is it well, okay, two things. There's a really beautiful book called I Believe in Love, and it's by
so good.
Father
Jean
something.
C. Delvey.
Thank you. I'm just about to use that book in like a book study with some ladies here, so I'm very excited about that. But there's one part of that book that really impacted me. But he talks about Peter walking on water, and he was like, everyone is always impressed by Peter for taking that step of faith and walking on the water. He's like, that's not the impressive part. He was like, because also if Peter fell into the water, he was like, the beautiful part is that after he fell, he looked back towards the Lord and said, Lord, save me. He didn't despair that he had fallen into the water after his attempt, but he turned back to the Lord and said, like, have mercy on me, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think, isn't that the thing after the fishes, also Peter like kneels before Jesus, he's like, Lord, like, go away from me, I'm a sinful man.
That
or
was
something,
today's
right?
reading, actually.
So,
The day
okay.
we're recording, that was the gospel today.
Yeah. And it makes me think of just like the Eastern prayer, right? Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner.
Yeah.
And just like that prayer of like,
I mean, the saints talk
that's
about
like
that
ultimate
a lot.
reality.
Yeah,
it is,
like
exactly.
The saints talk about us like distrusting ourselves, having a healthy distrust of ourselves, like not a disordered distrust of ourselves, but like a healthy
not
enough
like
distrust
navel
that,
gazing.
Yeah,
it's not about navel gazing,
but that I can recognize that I am capable
right.
of. I'm capable of evil and I'm capable of sin, and I need the Lord at every single step to prevent me from, walking away totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a really the gospel today is that reading where Peter they don't catch any fish all night, and then Jesus tells them to go out, put the nets out, and Peter's like, Lord, we didn't catch anything. Like, I'm a fisherman, I know what I'm talking about. And then they put the nets out, they catch all these fish, and that's when he says, like,
depart from me, I'm a sinful man.
That's right. And the priest today at Mass, when I went to Mass, he was like, Peter says to the Lord, like, I'm not worthy of you. Like, that's what he's really saying. I'm not worthy of you. But the Lord never leaves him, because the Lord's like, I know that. Like, he's like, you, like, that's not the point. Like, I'm not expecting you to sort of deserve this blessing. Like, because that's kind of what he was saying. Like, this blessing was so huge, so unimaginable that it like impressed upon Peter that he does not deserve this. But then the Lord is like, no, but I love you. And then he talks about, well, what does Peter do then? Peter's like, well, if this is who you are, like, I don't need any of this. And then that's his like act of total abandonment. He's like, because it says like they leave their nets and they follow.
Right.
And I think like, that's the place that we have a little bit. That's where not a little. That's where our agents. That's the hinge that is like crucial, the crucial hinge for us, which is like, do I really believe what Peter believed, which is that you are it, like you're all the fish and all the ocean and all the everything. And I'm in need of nothing if I have you, if I'm with you, if I like, and not just I'm in need of nothing, but you have me to begin, which is kind of goes back to our previous, like, it's you who reveals me to
Mhm.
myself. So like
Mhm.
even to that degree,
Mhm.
it's you that I need to follow, and I will have everything if I follow you, you know? And then it's like the
Mhm.
pearl and like all those metaphors of like you
Yeah.
sell everything because, and it's really, I mean, I think it's just how much do we believe that? And I think if we don't believe that, it's still not a moment of despair because we could always ask. We could always ask for faith. Like faith is a gift. We can always
Yeah.
ask, you know?
Yeah.
And in the
Right. It's
moment,
the
like
Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. Another
yeah,
classic Peter,
Yeah,
right? No, that's never
totally.
mind. That's someone else. That's
that's Paul. That's
Centurion?
Paul.
Paul. Okay, never mind.
No, wait.
No, it's
Oh gosh,
somebody.
oh gosh, oh
It's
gosh, oh gosh.
pre-Paul.
You're right.
That's pretty Paul.
Is the centurion. This is really bad.
We're
I love it. This is
terrible.
just totally, but you know what? This is par for the course for me. Like, can't even believe I'm studying theology sometimes. I'm like, Lord, help me. Lord,
Um,
I believe. Help my unbelief.
Erin
so
is looking it
funny.
up.
Yeah,
And
she's gonna
straight
look it
away,
up.
it's the father of the child. That's why we're
That
not
is
coming up with the
Oh,
man.
it's Talita Kum,
Yeah.
her dad.
that
Mhm.
is this. Is he not a centurion? I think he would.
No,
Oh
he
yeah, he
was
might.
he was like the like a
Some kind of Roman dude.
no, like
No,
what do you call it? Synagogue leader?
like a
Jairus?
Sadducee or
Was it
Jairus's daughter?
Jairus' daughter?
yeah, we're out
I'm
of
just
like
looking.
profound humility, not going to
I know,
delete this
right?
part out.
I know, right? Well, because I'm looking,
Yep.
I was just
Yeah.
trying to look it up, but I'm
Oh
looking at the
my
King
gosh.
James version, so I can't even like, what was it that ye disputed among thyself? What?
Yeah, because it's
Anyway,
something
Brain
like
can't even
so
for that.
Jesus comes into the house and then he like sends everybody out and he's like where
he
is
says you
she?
were
And they're
too
like
late,
she's
right?
here too late. She's already died. And
Yeah,
he's like
yeah,
everything is possible for those who believe. And he's like, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief, right?
yeah, right.
And I
Nicole
love that.
bringing it home. I love it.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Anyways,
Um,
also it's Gaudium et Spes 22, just saying. In
oh,
case
thank
people are
you.
looking it up, just to let you know.
Um, but also I was thinking, Nicole, that's like what you did in your room when you're like, this relationship has completely destroyed my every kind of sense of faith. And then you went to your room and I was
Mm,
like, well, I'll keep trying for like a little while and see what happens. Like that's kind of like a little bit of that, like,
Lord, I
Lord,
believe, help my
yeah,
unbelief. Yeah.
right.
yeah, and it felt like I remember I remember that like that moment in my head, and there was no consolation, and there was no sense of like, oh, but
Yeah.
Jesus is with me, or I had no happy
Mhm.
feelings. It was just it felt like an intellectual choice to be like, I'm gonna pick this for now
Mhm.
Yeah.
and see like it sounds like I'm gonna give you another chance, God. You really messed
Mm-hmm.
up this one, but I'm gonna give you another chance, like
How
That's
good he is
hilarious.
or
to us.
something. I
Yeah.
know we're so
That
silly
he sees the good
sometimes.
in those things. I
But
love
that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
there's a prayer that I found in a book called The Cloud of Unknowing,
Hmm.
but it's like a beautiful prayer. So I usually pray it after communion. It's like God upon whom all things upon whom no thing is hidden, upon whom desire is eloquent. That's the like I love that
Hmm.
line so much.
Yeah.
Upon
It's
whom
beautiful.
desire is eloquent. I'm like, you
Hmm.
know my desires, even like
Yeah.
when I think they're pointing to something else, or when I don't even realize that they're there, or when
Hmm.
I'm not acknowledging that, like, you know what my desires
Hmm.
are. So
Mm-hmm.
like I know that those speak to you. Like when my desire is for prayer, like your desire in prayer is for communion with the Lord, right? Like
Hmm.
he knows what that desire is. So that's what speaks to him. That's what like draws his heart. And that's what he
Yeah.
is always seeking to fulfill. And it just so often doesn't look like the fulfillment that we actually are expecting in line with that particular desire, you know?
Yeah.
But
So many things,
so
right?
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
Okay. Sorry,
I
you
just
go.
want to say like we have so this was supposed to be an introduction. We just kind of I think
I love it.
yeah, we just
Dive
like
right
shared
in.
we dove right in, but we will have other people that we're going to be talking
Mm,
to about just I guess this idea of being sort of destabilized
Hmm.
in a real way in
mhm.
the context of our relationship with God in sort of different areas of
Yeah.
life and
Do
people are
you want
going
to
to
give a
share
little
their
prequel of or preview of next week?
Mm, yeah.
is next week Joe is that
It
Mhm.
is, yeah, I think so.
okay so yeah so Mr. Joseph Goodwin very good friend of Aaron and mine because he worked in ministry like we did and yeah we've been sort of hankering to have him on the podcast for a really long time and
Mhm.
we finally made it happen and he is a convert to Catholicism from Protestantism. And he kind of shares his story with us about his conversion and about through that process, different ways in which, yeah, he really experienced a destabilization, not just in the fact that he was like letting his sort of way of life, way of being go and be transformed, into sort of what it means to be Catholic. Because for him, like all of us, he takes that really seriously. And it was a really serious transformation in his life. So that's kind of destabilizing to begin with, and in a good way, but still destabilizing. There's all kinds of other factors in his particular story that are challenging and destabilizing. He talks about those in a really beautiful way. So we're going to hear from him next week. But yeah.
Yes. That's good. That's exciting. Okay. So for God Wink this week, I'm just going to share that I was kind of asking the Lord, because I used to do diamond painting stuff. For the ladies are both smiling. Oh yeah, because there's
just you wait.
Nicole has her diamond painting that I made.
It's in our hallway.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I'm pretty sure that we might have done this one other time on the podcast. Yes. Oh, and look at what it is.
Yeah.
It's Peter's hand and Jesus'
hard
hand.
to see because it's like the reflection of the thing.
But you can
Oh, that's
totally
true.
see.
Come
Oh my
on
gosh,
now.
it's right
That's
apropos.
crazy.
Wait,
That's
it
so
really
funny.
is.
Oh yeah.
There it is.
So
She's just
it's
pulling
like
Peter up out of the water.
Little diamond drill. So that's basically what it is. So I used to do that, except for I got so sick of these things spilling all over the place, and then they would stick on the bottom of my feet. So every time I was walking somewhere, I'd be like, what the heck is that? And then I would like pull my foot up, and I'm like, there's this little tiny piece of plastic. And I was finding these things everywhere, like under my armpits when I would get into bed to sleep. Like they would be stuck to my butt when I was in the shower. I was like, I couldn't. They were everywhere. So I was like, this is enough. This is enough. I was like getting elbow pain anyways. So I was like, I got to find something else to do while I'm just like relaxing or listening to a podcast or something like that,
Yeah.
Anyways, so then I was like, I don't know, Lord, like I feel like I don't know what else to do. And then I was
what else is there if not diamond painting?
If not diamond painting, what else? That's exactly right.
There's nothing.
So I was putting stuff together for this parish feast that we're having. So I was putting all the different ministries in the things. And then one of the ministries, I was like, prayer shawl ministry. And I was like, oh, that's fun, Lord. Prayer shawl ministry. Because I'm thinking it's like, and it's 100%. I haven't been yet, but I'm pretty sure that it's like a group of like elderly women who meet together once a month to knit, and then they knit in between and they make prayer shawls for elderly people. So
that's so beautiful.
So I was like, and I just was like, it cracks me up because it was my 43rd birthday in July, and I was like, I'm getting old now. Like I'm getting old even though I don't feel old. So it's like the Lord has been taunting me with these things in like a good way. In like because he likes to joke with me anyway. So I'll just show, this is my latest, if anybody's watching, this is my latest
beautiful
lapgan.
Oh, nice. I love it.
Yeah, and I have actually made like 4 of them so far. So
wow.
Because then I found all this yarn in my closet that I forgot I had. So anyways,
that's perfect. It's
so good. So he's like, me the stuff and I enjoy it. So.
I love it. Someone like bought me a prayer, because I think at my parish growing up they would sell them sometimes, like as a fundraiser or something. And someone bought me a prayer shawl, and honestly I felt really loved by it, because I was like, oh, someone was like praying. And because I think typically like they do pray, I think, when they get together while they knit and stuff like that.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah,
that's lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Oh, well, this was a great discussion. I think a very good intro to, the series of stuff. So we'll look forward to everybody to having you with us on subsequent weeks where we dig into a lot more of it.
Yay.
So have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye, guys.
God bless you. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of In the Thicket. If you like what you hear, give us a rating and hit that subscribe button. We have new episodes every Monday with more stories and honest conversations about life when the going gets rough, and the hope and humor amidst it all. We'd love for you to join our community on Instagram and Facebook at In the Thicket Podcast. While you're there, let us know how we can pray for you. God bless, and see you next week.